And so, on this last Sunday before Christmas, we hear the story of Gabriel as he visited Mary. Apparently, now is the time when we start to slow down, when preparations and activities draw to a close, the time when some workplaces close, the time when schools close. Somehow my diary doesn't yet show a time of slowing down, but more an excited culmination of all the preparation that's been going on over the last few weeks. Carol services, carol singing, Christingle services, and in our family we've even got 2 birthdays this week. But as Christmas Day draws nearer, we start to reflect on the enormity of the celebration of Christmas. This year we'll celebrate Christmas like no other, the end of a year when people's lives have been turned upside down. Jobs have been lost, lives have been lost, families have been torn apart. Children have missed school and been kept away from family and friends. Recreational events have been put on hold. Many workers have been furloughed. But still we look forward to Christmas and the joy that it brings, even if the celebrations are totally different. Even if we are restricted to where we can go, who we can go with. Christmas has not been cancelled. It's simply been given a different focus, a different perspective. As we entered the season of Advent, we were greeted with the news of a vaccine for COVID. And so began the glimmer of light at the end of Professor Van Tam's famous tunnel analogy. We've been assured that things will get better, but we still have many questions. We're not very good at waiting. We like to have answers, often before the questions have been asked. Perhaps like Mary when she was visited by Gabriel, one of our questions will be, how will this be? Faced with the dilemma of meeting with loved ones or staying at home, we still face an unsure future. We weigh up the pros and cons of what we're going to do, and we say, how will this be? Imagine the dilemma that Mary faced. She knew that she would be under the threat of rejection. An unmarried mother announcing a pregnancy would not have been an easy decision. It would have been seen as a scandal. The possibility of punishment by stoning, or even been sold into slavery. Mary recognised and accepted the huge responsibility being thrust upon her. But as a virgin, she needed to ask the question, how can this be? It's perhaps a startling revelation that God entrusts his plan for the future of the world to a young woman. We don't know why he chose her. Perhaps because of her simplicity and naivety. Perhaps because of her vulnerability. Perhaps because of her virginity. Perhaps her easy acceptance of all that was being asked of her. I wonder if Mary realised the future that she would have. Today, more than 2,000 years later, we think of her still as being special. We recognise that not only was she favoured of God, but it is written that she was highly favoured. Her future was mapped out for her. She would give birth far from home, in difficult circumstances. There would be strange visitors, angels, strange unheard of gifts. Her family would become asylum seekers in a strange land. And then she would suffer as she watched her child on an unusual path that would be totally alien to her. Had Mary not said yes, how different life would have been for her. God in Jesus made his home in a human flesh because he loved us. A love that's risky, radical, disturbing, painful, and yet at the same time full of joy. It's a love that's challenging, transformational, as it asks us to turn our eyes upon a world where the poor and the simple, the naive and the vulnerable are at the centre of our lifestyles and all that's happening around us. COVID-19 has no respect of class or of wealth. It has spotlighted the everyday struggles of vulnerability as families go hungry. Generational and geographic divides become apparent, and communities are called upon to work together. How will this be? Mary asked. And as Christians looking forward to celebrating Christmas and the birth of Christ, I ask you today, how will this be? How will we as a Christian community respond to the challenges of everyday life? Already we've seen so many initiatives, nationally and locally, as food is being distributed, Christingles are made and lit, toys are wrapped up for children, phone calls are made to the lonely, dinners are made for the needy. How can we make a difference? How will this be? Mary said yes, made a difference to her own life and to that of others. Can we say yes to a world where the hungry are fed? Can we say yes to a world where wealth is more fairly shared? Can we say yes to the radical and transforming love of God and demonstrate this love in the choices and the priorities that shape our everyday lives? God asks for our cooperation in all our simplicity, all our naivety, all our vulnerability. Can we say yes to receiving Christ, living with him and through him this special Christmas time? How will this be? Questioned Mary. Simple, by saying yes to God and leaving the rest to him. Amen.